In the marble halls of a millionaire's mansion, a game was being set up that was never meant to be fair. Guests in tailored suits and glittering gowns laughed as the wealthy host announced a strange twist to the evening. He had invited his Black Maid's young son to play chess against him, all for amusement. To the crowd, it was entertainment, a cruel joke disguised as generosity. But what no one in that room knew was that the boy carried a gift far greater than anyone imagined. A gift that would turn mockery into shock and silence into awe. But what happened when the boy sat at that chessboard left the entire room stunned. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon, because stories like this remind us that true genius often comes from the most unexpected places. The millionaire at the center of this story was a man who thrived on control, prestige, and the intoxicating power of wealth. His mansion was not just a home, it was a monument to his superiority. Gilded chandeliers sparkled above polished marble floors, and rare paintings from across the world adorned his walls. Every detail spoke of privilege, and he basked in the admiration it brought. To him, success was measured not only by riches, but by how many people envied his life. In preparation for his latest gathering, he spared no expense. Politicians, business magnates, and high society guests were carefully chosen to fill the room. He wanted the evening to be a display of luxury and influence, where every toast to his name echoed his dominance. Yet beneath the glittering facade, there was arrogance, a cruelty that found amusement in belittling those who served him. He believed his wealth entitled him not just to respect, but to mock those beneath him. Among his staff was a black maid who had worked tirelessly in his home for years. She cleaned the very chandeliers that impressed his guests, scrubbed the marble floors until they gleamed, and kept order in the mansion he so proudly flaunted. But despite her dedication, she was invisible to him. To the millionaire, she was just another shadow in the background, a servant to be overlooked. It was this disdain that sparked his cruel idea. He decided to make her son the subject of his latest amusement. With a mocking smile, he extended an invitation for the boy to join the evening, not as a guest of honor, but as the punchline to a private joke. He announced that the maid's son would face him in a game of chess, a spectacle for the guests to enjoy. He was certain the boy's presence would highlight the gap between them. But the stage he created to ridicule would soon expose more than he ever intended. The night of the gathering arrived, and the mansion came alive with luxury. Gleaming cars lined the driveway, valets rushed to open doors, and guests in gowns and tuxedos swept into the grand hall. Crystal glasses sparkled under chandeliers, and the air hummed with conversation, laughter, and the smug certainty of people who believed they belonged at the very top. At the center of it all, the millionaire thrived, basking in the admiration of those who flattered his ego. As waiters moved gracefully between the guests, the announcement of the evening's special entertainment stirred curiosity. Whispers spread quickly. Some guests smirked at the idea of a servant's child being invited. Others rolled their eyes, assuming it would be a harmless amusement, a diversion before the music and dancing began. None of them expected anything more than a brief distraction. For them, the game was already decided. In another part of the mansion, the maid's son waited quietly. He was young, small for his age, with an expression that betrayed neither fear nor arrogance. To most, he was just a child from a working-class background, completely unremarkable. Yet behind his calm eyes was a sharpness, a quiet fire born from hours spent studying, learning, and mastering a skill that few had ever witnessed. His mother had always seen it in him, but the world had not been given the chance. Tonight, by the hand of arrogance, that chance had arrived. When the boy finally entered the hall, the chatter softened. Guests craned their necks, some chuckling. Under their breath, others pitying him as though he were walking into humiliation. The millionaire sat at the center, beside an ornate chessboard of ivory and ebony squares. His smirk widened as he waved the boy over, making a spectacle of the moment. To him, It was entertainment, another reminder to his guests that his wealth and intellect placed him above all others. But as the boy sat down, something in his posture shifted the atmosphere. He was not timid. He was not flustered by the stares or the mocking smiles. He studied the board with a composure far beyond his years, his fingers resting lightly on the polished wood. The millionaire, amused, made the first move. The guests leaned in, waiting for the inevitable collapse. Yet what followed was not collapse. It was precision. The boy's hands moved swiftly but deliberately, countering every attempt, dismantling every strategy. Each time the millionaire thought he had cornered his opponent, the boy revealed a response that left him unsettled. Murmurs began to spread around the room. Faces once painted with amusement now showed curiosity. Then, astonishment. The millionaire shifted uncomfortably, but refused to show weakness. He played harder, his pride demanding victory. Yet the harder he fought, the more apparent the truth became. This was no ordinary child fumbling through a game beyond his grasp. This was a mind far sharper than anyone in that room had expected. Piece by piece, the board told a different story than the one the millionaire had written in his head. The joke was unraveling before his eyes, and with it, his control over the evening. What began as laughter was giving way to silence. The tension grew thick, every move drawing the crowd deeper into disbelief. And still, the boy remained calm, focused, unshaken, as though he had been preparing for this very moment his entire life. The board had become a battlefield, and the tension in the room was undeniable. The millionaire leaned forward, beads of sweat forming at his temple, his once smug expression hardening into frustration. Each move he made was meant to reassert dominance, to remind the guests of his superiority. Yet every counter from the boy was swift, flawless, and precise. The power dynamic had shifted, and everyone could feel it. What was supposed to be a performance of arrogance was now a display of genius. The boy's eyes never wavered from the board, his calmness a striking contrast to the millionaire's unraveling composure. Guests who had first smirked at the spectacle now stood in stunned silence, their laughter silenced by the reality unfolding before them. The room that once buzzed with mockery now held only the sound of chess pieces clicking against polished wood. Finally, it happened. With a steady hand, the boy moved his piece into position and whispered the words through action rather than voice. Checkmate. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The mighty millionaire, the man who prided himself on intellect and superiority, had been outplayed by the son of the maid he had sought to humiliate. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the rustle of dresses and the shifting of uneasy guests. No one dared to laugh now. The cruel joke had flipped, its sharp edge cutting into the pride of the host. The boy sat back, composed and dignified, as though victory was never in doubt. He did not gloat, nor did he revel in triumph. He simply allowed the board to tell the story. Intellect has no owner, no class, no race. It belongs to those who cultivate it. The millionaire's face burned red as he searched for words, but none came. His plan had crumbled in front of everyone he wished to impress. What was intended as a humiliation of another had become his own undoing. And the boy, once overlooked as nothing more than a servant's child, now stood revealed as something far greater. The hall fell into silence as the boy's victory settled over the room. The millionaire sat frozen, his pride shattered, while the guests who once laughed now stared in disbelief. A game meant to mock had instead revealed brilliance, and the joke had turned on its creator. Whispers spread quietly. This was no ordinary child. His calm focus and flawless play had spoken louder than any words could. Intelligence, they realized, was not the possession of the wealthy or the privileged. It lived everywhere, even in those the world tried hardest to overlook. The boy rose. from his seat without arrogance. He didn't gloat or demand recognition. He simply carried himself with quiet dignity. His mother, watching from the side, felt a swell of pride that no humiliation could erase. In a single night, her son had proven what she had always known. Greatness cannot be denied, no matter how deeply society tries to bury it. The millionaire attempted a hollow laugh, pretending the loss meant nothing, but the room no longer believed him. His wealth could buy luxury, but it could not shield him from the truth everyone had just witnessed. Respect could not be purchased. It had to be earned. And as the guests departed, one thought lingered in their minds. How many more hidden? Geniuses are overlooked every day, dismissed because of where they come from or who their parents are.